name is Marc Woodbury-Smith and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioural Neurosciences at McMaster University and also an associate member of the Department of Paediatrics, and I work clinically at St Joseph's Healthcare in Hamilton in developmental clinics. My current research activities, actually since moving to Canada, prior to moving to Canada I was researching autism, but the focus was, as I mentioned, cognitive neuroscience. So since moving to Canada, my focus has been more on genetics of autism spectrum. So the genetic studies of which I'm part, and it's quite a large collaboration, is between McMaster University and Sick Kids in Toronto, and the research centre in Toronto is the Centre for Applied Genomics. And so this is a large program of research which is essentially looking at autism from lots of different angles, both the phenotype, which is the clinical characteristics, but also the genotype, and trying to join the two together to better understand both what causes autism, but also the pathogenesis, how the gene turns into the clinical features. The Foundation has supported my research in several ways. My own research as part of the larger program of genetics autism research has been more interested in the heritable causes of autism. So a lot of the genetics is focused on genes that are what's called de novo, that is, they just arise out of the blue. So these are mutations that just occur out of the blue, but we know that autism tends to run in families. And so my research has been focused on trying to understand why autism runs in families. The burden for mental health diseases, generally speaking, is very consistent. I can speak to autism spectrum disorder as being one example of a neurodevelopmental brain disorder where the healthcare burden both in Canada and worldwide is very significant indeed. And this is a burden both in terms of the budget to healthcare and social care, but also burden to the families who obviously for anyone with an autism spectrum disorder, the outcome is sometimes quite difficult, in as much as fulfilling everyday activities is very difficult for them. So the burden for the individual themselves is also quite significant. So in an attempt to understand autism spectrum and other mental health problems better through brain type research, the ultimate goal is to better understand these conditions so that there can be better treatments and better management strategies. Solving the puzzles of the mind refers to how we understand different people's behaviours, different people's mental health pathology, different people's vulnerabilities in general terms, whether it be vulnerabilities due to a mental health problem, vulnerabilities due to a developmental or learning problem such as dyslexia, or vulnerability due to a neurodegenerative disorder, for example, such as Alzheimer's disease. And trying to understand this involves looking at the mind in several different ways. Firstly, from the point of view of genetics, but also from the point of view of how the brain functions and how that translates into clinical everyday presentation. So the research that I'm involved in, so I'm referring now to the larger collaboration, but also my own research activities, very much is consistent with that idea of trying to unravel all these various different facets of the mind's function or the brain's function. It's through grants such as the one that they've awarded to me that clinician scientists involved in both in research but also working clinically can start to unravel some of these the uncertainties regarding how the brain works and how it translates into everyday vulnerability. So as a physician who has been awarded funding and who's been able for the last 3 years or more, thanks to the funding, to pursue these research goals, I'm very, very grateful, as are the collaborators that I'm working with. So I think that it's a fantastic set of research funding streams that the Scottish Rite is providing.